Welcome back, everyone, to the Paris pod. We had to bribe producer 2 with some blueberries. So we have a happy producer 2. He's ready to hit the beach and, most importantly, ready to hit the grocery store with producer 1. This is the penultimate Road to Paris / Paris pod. We will only be doing one more. And so we had to make sure that producer 2 got on here. You want to give him a smile, producer 2? All right. Well, producer 2 is going to go to Trader Joe's, greatest place on earth, with producer 1, and I had to make a decision for the outfit. So I had a choice between my jersey that I played with in Doha, because big congratulations to Sharif Yunus and Ahmed Tijan for getting into the semifinals, their second straight Olympic semifinals, because they beat my boys, Andy Benish and Miles Partain. But I had to stand in solidarity with my fellow Americans. For the first time in Olympic history, the United States will not be on the podium for beach volleyball. We started out in 1996, won gold, silver, and since then we have had a medal in every single Olympic Games. Benish and Partain were our last hope, and they got dismissed by a Qatari team that is playing exceptional. And so we have a 5th place finish. We have a 9th place finish for Chase Budinger and Miles Evans. Kelly Chang, Sarah Hughes took a 5th, turned in not a bad performance last night against Nina Brunner and Tanya Huberly, probably a B+, A-, maybe. But it's just Nina and Tanya are playing phenomenal. And then we got a 9th place finish from Kristen Nuss and Taryn Cloth. Bit of a surprise, but tough draw. You got the last 2 AVP finals between them and Melissa Humana-Paredes and Brandie Wilkerson. And that's what you get in your 9th place round. So tough draw, but winners win. And as John Wooden once said, you got to have your best when the best is needed. And we just didn't quite have that. And so now we have our first non-podium. And so I had to stand. I got my USA jersey from the Coolangatta Futures I once played in, got my USA hat, standing with everyone in solidarity. But it is a new era in beach volleyball, because now for the first time in history, with Americans out, it paves the way for history to be made elsewhere, and history is being made. For the first time ever, we have 8 semifinalists on the men's and the women's side from 8 different countries. So we have Germany's Nils Ehlers and Clemens Wickler versus Norway's Anders Mol and Christian Sorm. We have Sweden's David Amann, Jonathan Helvig versus Qatar's Sharif Yunus and Ahmed Tijan. We have Brazil's Patricia Silva and Duda Lisboa versus Australia's Taliqua Clancy and Mariafe Artacho. And then we have Canada's Melissa Humana-Paredes and Brandie Wilkerson. Congratulations to them. I'll touch on them in a second. First Canadian women's team to make an Olympic semifinal. Huge congrats. It's been a long time coming for Canada. They have had some of the best teams in the world. They've won world championships. They've come second in world championships. Mel and Brandie. Mel took a gold with Pavin in 2019. Brandie took a silver with Sophie Bukovic in 2022, I believe. Whatever year that was in Rome. COVID kind of threw that off. But then the last country represented is Switzerland and Nina Brunner and Tanya Huberly. So the game has spread far and wide for the first time ever. 8 different federations are in the Olympic semifinals, which is kind of a cool little factoid. And as we mentioned coming into it with Brian Cook when we did our preview, it was Scandinavia versus the field. And when we did our simulation, so the women's simulation is way off. I think that was Louisa Littman and Laura Ludwig versus Kristen and Taryn in the finals. Both those teams now out. But the men's side, the simulation is still very much in play, where it was Sweden versus Norway in the finals. And we are looking like that is very much a possibility, as Sweden will now play Qatar. But so that matchup is a fascinating one, because they've played 6 times before this. Sharif and Ahmed won what I think is still the match of the tournament, a 2018 3-set win in pool that even the record. They've played 6 times. They've gone 3 all 6 times, and now it is dead even at 3-3. And Sweden, it kind of reminds me of when a boxer gets hit early, and you know they kind of, their legs get a little bit wobbly and they start hopping around and trying to find their legs again. That's sort of kind of what's happened with Sweden, where they got knocked down early. They came into this tournament with 2 losses for the entire season. They were 29-2, and then they lose twice in pool play. They've since rebounded, had a great win over Cuba, had a great win over Evandro and Arthur, and now they're back playing their style of play against one of the few teams in the world who consistently matches up with them. So that, like all 8 semifinal matchups, or 4 semifinal matchups, 8 teams left, 4 semis. That is appointment viewing, must-watch TV. More must-watch TV goes to Patricia and Duda versus Australia. That matchup also very evenly played. They've played 8 times. Patricia and Duda are leading that 5-3. Now, we have seen the best of Patricia and Duda this season and this Olympic quad, but nothing like what we are seeing here. And again, I'll refer back to our preview that we did with Brian Cook, where I said, if Patricia and Duda are playing at the peak of their abilities, no one can beat them. And every match thus far, except for kind of a weird lackadaisical set against Egypt, who went 21-19, the only team that has come even close to taking a set, this has been the best we've seen from Patricia and Duda, and they put on a tour de force against Latvia's Tina Gradina and Anastasia Samoilova. They won 21-16, 21-10 against a very, very good Latvian team. And now they are barreling into the semifinals against Australia, who had a very solid win over Zoe Verger-Deprez and Esme Bobner of Switzerland. Congratulations to them for qualifying. Congratulations for getting a 5th. And Switzerland, I will always remember, and I just consistently refer back to it, when Anouk Verger-Deprez and Joanna Mader, after they won bronze in Tokyo, interviewer asked him, is Switzerland a beach volleyball country? And she said yes, and Switzerland's proved it. Between Anouk and Joanna, between Nina and Tanya, between Zoe and Esme, you got 2 Swiss teams in the top 8 of the field. You got another Swiss team in Nina and Tanya playing the best of their abilities, playing some of the best volleyball I've ever seen them play, especially Nina. Goodness gracious. She came into their quarterfinal siding out at 82%, playing some of the best defense in the entire tournament, and now she is in the semifinals. So back to Patricia and Duda versus Australia. It's going to come down to Taliqua's serving. And everyone who listens to this podcast knows that I am big on defense, defense, defense. For the women's side, the big one is serving. And so number 1 in the field, Nina Brunner, 20 aces. Number 2 in the field, Taliqua Clancy, 18 aces. Number 3 in the field, Melissa Humana-Paredes, 13 aces. And then you have Valentina Guittardi, Esme Bobner, Zoe Verger-Deprez, and then Tanya Huberly, 11 aces. And so serving has been paramount on the women's side. So if Taliqua can resume that form, she once was voted server of the year, that's going to be the big X factor. If Patricia and Duda can neutralize her from the service line, that is going to be key for Brazil. And if that happens, I don't see a way for Australia to win. So to me, the big X factor to keep an eye on in that matchup is the serving of Australia. The other female semifinal is Nina Brunner, Tanya Huberly versus Melissa Humana-Paredes and Brandie Wilkerson. Canada is leading the head-on-head in that one 3-1. But the context of this tournament is so different, where I would think that Nina and Tanya would be the odds-on favorites, and I'll have to check with Bet Online to see if they actually are, just because of the way that they're playing. I think Nina Brunner, I don't know if I've expressed it enough throughout this Road to Paris series how much I love Nina Brunner's game, especially her defense. I've long thought she's one of the best defensive players in the world, right up there with Kristen Nuss, right up there with Sinja Tillman, right up there with all of those best defenders. And now the world on the biggest stage is coming to see it. The dig that she made at 17-17 against Chang and Hughes in last night's quarterfinal, where they're running a late angle block, so Nina's sliding into the line late, and Kelly Chang hits this snap line. It was the right swing, and Nina lays out one-hand scoop perfect right into Tanya's lap. It was incredible. Then she makes a left foot dig. I don't know if she's left or right footed, but manages to keep it up. They ended up winning that point in transition. And then the very last play of that match, she takes a soft block from Tanya, lobs it up, perfect set on a very difficult ball to set. She's playing incredible. And her defense is almost overshadowing how good she's playing on offense. 82% side out for Nina Brunner. Now we're seeing the peak from Switzerland. The question is, can they sustain it? And the question is, are we going to see the peak from Mel and Brandie? We still haven't seen them at their top form in this tournament, I don't think. They were a little bit sloppy in pool play, ended up going into the lucky loser rounds. They made it out of that. They played well against Bara Hermanova and Marisa Erstakova. Now, they played well, no question about it, against Taryn Kloth and Kristen Nuss, but I think that was one of the more nervy matches I've seen from Kristen and Taryn, especially Taryn, where they had a 14-9 lead over Mel and Brandie, Canada goes on a 6-0 run. You don't see that very often from Kristen and Taryn allowing that to happen. And then Mel and Brandie take a 17-13 lead and then give that up to Kristen and Taryn. Kristen makes a perfect dig at 18-18 in that second set, and then you get the overset in transition. You get another trap set. Now it's 20-18. Brandie puts it away 21-18. And so I think that was Canada held strong, but I think if Kristen and Taryn were a little bit less nervy, and if they make LA 2028, which I would bet on them to do, I think that those nerves will be calmed quite a bit, and we wouldn't see those same sort of new to the Olympics mistakes. Could be wrong, but that said, I just don't think we've seen the best from Mel and Brandie, and the way that Nina and Tanya are playing, they need to bring their best or they're not going to go into the gold medal match. If we get the best of Mel and Brandie and we get the best of Nina and Tanya, that is going to be a hell of a match and one I'm very excited to watch. And Mel and Brandie, congrats again on being the first Canadian women's team to make a semifinal. They now have the backing of all American fans, every AVP fan, now that they don't have an American team to root for, firmly on the Mel and Brandie bandwagon. The last men's semifinal, haven't touched on it, Norway's Anders Wilkerson Storm. It's amazing how much I haven't talked about Norway throughout this entire process, just because they have been hammering teams. Undefeated, haven't dropped a set, whipped up on Spain's Pablo Herrera, Adrian Gavir. Congratulations to them on making a 10 combined Olympic Games. The ageless Pablo Herrera. And here's a question. Who is more ageless, Pablo Herrera or Matt Anderson, who was phenomenal in an epic indoor match, a semifinal against Poland? If you haven't watched that, highly recommend you take a quick break from beach and go watch that indoor semifinal, because it was electric. And so good luck to all the men's USA teams or the men's USA players rather, who are still in the hunt for a bronze medal. But Norway, I just haven't talked about it much because there's been nothing really. They've been kind of like Anna, Patricia, and Duda, where they've just been steamrolling folks. And now Norway is back where I think all of us know that they belong. They're in the semifinals against Germans Nils Ehlers and Clemens Wickler, who are back in their sixth semifinal of the season. Now, Norway has played this German team 6 times. They are 6-0. Odds on Norway for sure. You can never count out Clemens Wickler. This dude is unbelievable. One of my favorite players to watch, but you guys know the rules with the show. We don't bet against Norway. Not going to bet against Norway now. And I think that the beach volleyball world deserves the treat that could be a Norway-Sweden Olympic gold medal match. That's just where this has been trending since 2021. And I think it would be the most appropriate gold medal match. That said, Qatar's playing great. Germany's playing great. No matter who makes the finals, they deserve it. The fans, I think, would be most deserving to see a Norway-Sweden gold medal match. It would be must watch. You have to clear your calendar to watch that match. Now, the last point I want to make is I'm going to go back to the defense. So I mentioned the serving for the women, how paramount that has been and how important that is going to be for Australia. But the defense for the men. Ahmed Tijan, number 1 in digs, into the semifinals with 44. David Amon, number 2 in digs, into the semifinals. He's got 39. Number 3 in digs, Christian Sorm, 37. He's into the semifinals. Clemens Wickler, number 6 in digs, 29. He's into the semifinals. How about the best blockers? Nils Ehlers, number 1, into the semifinals, 31. Jonathan Helvig, into the semifinals. He's got 30. Sharif, 25. He's in the semifinals. Anders Mol, 23. He's into the semifinals. Defense, 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 ladies and gentlemen. It's a cliche for a reason that defense wins championships. And in beach volleyball, defense travels wherever you go. So whoever's going to win, it comes down to who earns more points, who holds teams to the lowest side-out percentage. On the women's side right now, that goes to Nina Brunner and Tanya Huberly, who are holding teams to just 43% side out. That is a wild, wild number at this level. So again, this is the penultimate Road to Paris / Paris pod. We will have one more recap after the medal rounds, and then it is back to AVP season, and then Kyle Friend and I will be traveling around on the Volleyball World Beach Pro Tour. We'll be going to Hamburg, and we're going to Brazil later in the year, going out to Doha later in the year. So a lot of that content will be now on the Volleyball World channels. But thanks again for everyone for joining along for the ride, and just pop that popcorn. We got some semifinals and some medal rounds coming up. Shoots.